Good evening, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about Linux architecture. What is Linux and how the Linux will work, right? Linux is multi-user based operating system. Multiple users can connect with a single Linux machine and they can perform operations at a time. In the Linux operating system, we need to understand what is the shell, what is kernel. And here, for every machine, hardware components will be available like drivers, printers, disks, and all that stuff. We cannot communicate with those hardware components directly. That's why we will use operating system. Operating system will act as a mediator between the users and computer hardware components. All right. Now here, in the Linux operating system, shell will be available. That shell is the mediator between users and kernel. So we are users, we will connect with the Linux machine, we will perform some operations in the Linux machine. Mainly we will execute some commands in the Linux machine. So whenever we execute commands, that command will be taken care by shell. Shell will check the command validity. Our command syntax is correct or not. If the command syntax is correct, then shell will convert that command into kernel understandable form. Then kernel will take that command, will give to hardware. Kernel is the heart of the Linux operating system. Kernel is responsible to communicate with the hardware components. All right. And yesterday we have seen the architecture and the file system of the Linux operating system. In the Linux, everything will start from the root. Inside the root, some directories will be available like bin directory, boot directory, user directory, home directory, okay, etc, opt, mount, like that some directories will be available. Fine. For every user, one user home directory also will be available. When we connect with the machine as a EC2 user, then we will go to EC2 user home directory. We will go to EC2 user home directory. All right, good. Today we are going to understand what is scripting. Today we are going to understand what is scripting in the Linux operating system. So scripting is nothing but set of commands that we are going to execute by keeping in a file. Okay, for example, I want to execute some commands, QMI, PWD, date command, cal command, okay. So like this ls command. So these are several Linux commands. I want to execute all these Linux commands. This is not one-time activity, guys. Every day I want to execute all these commands. Now here, we are executing these commands one by one, one by one. We are executing these commands one by one, one by one. When we are executing these commands one by one, it will take some time. So then what I will do is, whatever the commands that I want to execute, all these commands, I will keep in one file and I will execute that file. That is called script. Okay. Scripting means set of commands we are keeping in a file for the execution. So Linux is CLI based operating system. Everything is based on commands in the Linux. But instead of executing the commands one by one manually, we will keep all the commands in one file. That file we are going to execute. Self-scripting. Okay, scripting means set of commands we are keeping in a file for the execution. Why we need to use this scripting? Scripting is used to automate our daily routine work. Okay, for example, I want to execute below commands on daily basis. Whatever the work that I am doing on daily basis manually, that work I will automate by keeping inside a file. Instead of executing all the commands one after other, we can keep these commands inside one file and we can execute that file. That is called as shell script. So all of you read these points again. What is the meaning of scripting? Scripting means set of commands we are keeping in a file for the execution. And this scripting is used to automate our daily routine work. For example, I want to execute below commands on daily basis. Who am I? PWD, date, cal, ls. So instead of executing these commands one after other manually, we can keep them inside a file and we can execute that file. That is called as shell scripting. Okay. The process of executing the script means set of commands, guys. Simple. The process of executing script file using shell is called as shell scripting. What is the meaning of shell here? Shell is a mediator between users and kernel. Our commands will be processed by shell only. In the Linux architecture, shell is available, kernel is available. So whenever we execute a command, shell will read that command, shell will verify command syntax is valid or not. If the syntax is valid, then shell will give the instruction to kernel, then kernel will give the instruction to the hardware command. So whatever the commands that you are executing manually on daily basis, those commands we can keep inside a file and we can execute that file. That file is called as shell scripting. Are you guys clear with my point? I want to execute set of commands one after other, one after other. Instead of executing these commands manually, we can keep inside one file and we can execute that file. The process of keeping set of commands in a file for the execution is called as a scripting. What is the meaning of scripting? Scripting is nothing but set of commands only. Scripting is nothing but set of Linux commands only. So these Linux commands we are keeping in a file and we are going to execute that file. That process is called as shell scripting. So why we are going to use this shell scripting? Scripting is used to automate our daily routine work in the project. Okay. Whatever the work that we are doing manually in the project, that work can be automated by using this shell script. Okay. Whenever we are working on the shell scripting files will have .sh extension. Okay. Suppose I want to create one shell script file. In that file, I will give set of commands. The file which contains a set of commands is called as a script file. The script file will be saved with the .sh extension. Whatever the shell script file we are creating, that shell script file we are going to save with the .sh extension. Okay. Now, so here guys, whenever we are going to write a shell script, we are going to specify which shell is responsible to process our script. In the Linux, the shell will be available. The default shell is bash shell. You can also specify the shell by using Shebang. Okay, what is Shebang in the Linux? Shebang is used to specify which shell. In the Linux, several shells available. Which shell should process our script, that we can specify by using Shebang. Okay. So how do we write the Shebang? What is the syntax to write the Shebang? The syntax for the Shebang is #bin/bash. So the meaning is I want to use bash shell to execute my script file. Inside the script file, set of commands will be available. What is Shebang in the Linux? Shebang is used to specify which shell we should use to process our script file. Here, writing the Shebang is not mandatory, but it is recommended. Writing Shebang is not mandatory, but it is recommended. So Shebang will represent which shell we are going to use to execute our script. The process of executing set of commands by keeping in a file is called as scripting. To execute that script, we are going to use a shell. That's the reason it is called as shell scripting. As a DevOps engineer, we need to know this shell scripting because whatever the work that we do manually, that work can be automated by using this shell scripting. Okay. In some projects, people will use shell scripting to automate that work. In some projects, they will use Python scripting to automate that work. Okay. Some people will use shell scripting. Some people will use Python scripting. Okay. Let me connect with my Linux machine, guys. My Linux machine is running. Let me connect with my Linux machine now. The machine is in the running state. Let us make one SSH connection by using git bash SSH client. Let's go to our key pairs location where our key pairs available. I do have all the key pairs here. Let me open git bash. Yes. Let us make SSH connection. Yes, I want to connect with it. Yes, fine. Now you can see what is the default shell we are using. Echo $0 bash shell we are using. You can use like this also. Echo shell, bin bash shell. If you want to see all the shells which are available, cat/etc/shells. So these are the several shells that are supported by this Linux machine. Out of all these shells, we are having bash shell as a default shell to process our script execution. You can specify which shell you want to use to process your script by using Shebang. Every shell script file will be saved with a .sh extension. Now, I connected with this machine as a EC2 user and my present working directory is EC2 user. So here there are several files available. Let me delete all of them. rm start.txt, rm MySQL RPM file. Okay, good. So now currently I don't have anything in my present working directory. Now I want to create one shell script file and I want to execute it. So I'm using vi editor 01script.sh. So the shell script files will have .sh extension. vi 01script.sh. Open that file in the insert mode. Now, first, every shell script will start with Shebang, bin bash. All right, bin bash is there. Now, then we can write our commands. I'm just writing a command, my pwd date cal something like this. Okay, these are my commands, set of commands. That is called scripting. I want to execute some commands. These commands I'm keeping inside a file and I'm going to execute that file. Save this and close it. You can see cat of 01script.sh. My shell script file is available. In this Shebang is available. Shebang will represent which shell it should use to process our script. Okay. Then here I'm keeping set of commands I want to execute by using script. So my script file is ready. Now I want to execute this script file. It is a shell script file. So sh space the file script.sh. So when I execute this file, then what all the commands available in the file, all those commands are executed. So if you see, my first command is VMI, it is printing as EC2 user. My second command is pwd, it is printing my present working directory. My third command is date, it is printing the current date. My fourth command is cal, it is printing current month calendar. So this process is called as shell scripting. Are you guys able to understand? Are you guys able to understand what is shell scripting? Why we need to go for shell scripting and how to create a script file and how to execute that script file? Right. So read these points again, guys. It's very, very important, especially when you are working as a DevOps engineer. This shell scripting is very, very, very important, guys. Okay. Scripting means set of commands we are keeping in a file for the execution. So I want to execute set of commands. Instead of executing these commands manually, one by one, I want to keep all these commands inside one file and I want to execute that file. The process of keeping set of commands in the file and executing that file is called scripting. In order to execute that script, we are going to use the shell. That's the reason people will call it as shell script. So shell scripting is used to automate our daily routine work. So whatever the work that we are doing manually in the Linux machine, that work can be automated by using shell script. Some projects will use shell scripting to automate the work. Some projects will use Python scripting to automate the work. Okay. So shell script with files will be available, right? That file will have .sh extension. So in the shell script file, the first line will be Shebang. What is the meaning of Shebang? Shebang is used to specify which shell you want to use to process your script file. So I created one script file with a .sh extension. Then I'm able to execute that file by using sh command. Shell script file I want to execute. All right. Now I want to write one more shell script file. In that shell script file, I will ask user to enter some name. Whatever the name you enter, I will say good evening message with that. I just want to develop a shell script which will give a great message. Right? So let me create the shell script file. One shell script is available. Let me go for second shell script. Vi script.sh. Right. What is the first line in the shell script file? Shebang, which represents what is the shell you want to use to process your script file. Okay, bin bash is available. I want to tell to user to enter the name. So I will give you a message for the user to enter the name. So for that, I'm going to use a command called echo. Echo command is used to print a message. Enter your name. Okay, I want to print one message saying enter your name. For that, I'm using echo command. Echo is used to print a message on the console. That's it. Then whatever the name you enter, I will read that name and I will store that name into a variable called user. Okay. Echo is one Linux command. Read is also one Linux command. What is the purpose of echo? It is printing a message to the user saying that enter your name. Then you will enter your name. So whatever the name you are entering, I need to read that name and I need to store that name. To store that name, I'm using uname. Once the name is stored, I want to print that message along with your name. For that, again, I'm using echo command, echo, hello, whatever the name you give, it is available in the uname. Hello, uname, welcome to Ashok IT. Something like this. Here, echo is used to print a message, read is used to read the data. Then again, echo command, hello, $uname. $uname is representing the name that you have given. Whatever the name you enter, that name we are storing in the uname variable. That uname variable we are accessing here and we are printing one message saying that welcome to Ashok IT. I'm printing one message saying that welcome to Ashok IT. That's it. Then let me save this script and let me close it. WQ. Okay. Come out from the insert mode and close that file. Now you can see the file data cat script.sh. So very simple, 3 lines available. So 3 Linux commands, echo command, read command, again echo command. Then let me execute this file, sh space 02 script.sh. Enter your name. Echo command is executed. It is asking my name. I need to enter that. So I'm giving the name as some John. Then hello John, welcome to Ashoka. Now you see the script cat 02 script.sh. Cat 02 script.sh. It is asking me to enter the name. I have given my name. It stored that name into uname variable. Then hello uname. Whatever the name you enter, that name I am printing and I am giving a message. Welcome to Ashoka. So this is called scripting. So whatever the work that we do manually, that work we are automating by using scripting. That is called shell scripting. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? I'm not getting any response from you people. You got my point? Okay, good. Now, when I use sh command directly, that file is getting executed. Okay, there is another way to execute the file 02 script.sh. Now, permission denied. In two ways, we can execute the shell script file, guys. One is by using sh command. Another one is /file. Okay, you observe this clearly now. So I have script file. Second script file is available here. What permission user is having on this file, guys? User nothing but owner. Can you see the file permissions? The owner is having read write permission. Group is having only read permission. Others also having only read permission. Owner is having read write permission. Owner is having read write permission. Group is having read permission. Others also having only read permission. So we don't have execute permission, but still we are able to execute by using sh command. It is asking enter your name. Hello David, welcome to Ashoka. But if you see this /02 script.sh, this is one way to execute the script file. This is another way to execute the script file. When I use the second approach, it is saying permission denied. So as a owner, I'm trying to execute that file, but I don't have execute permission on that file. I don't have execute permission on that file. Okay, that is the reason it is saying permission denied. Okay, how to give permission for that file? So chmod command u+x. For the user, I want to give execute permission on that file. Chmod command, which is used to change file permissions in the Linux. Chmod command, it is used to change file permissions in the Linux. Now check it, ls-l. Now user is having execute permission also on that file. Now you can execute this file like this also, /02 script.sh. Enter your name, some Sunil. Hello Sunil, welcome to Asha. So there are two ways available to execute the script file. One is by using sh command, another one is /file. When you use sh command, it won't check for the permission, but when you use /approach, it will check for the permission. If you have execute permission, then only you can execute that script file. Okay, now my requirement is I want to ask the user to enter first name and last name, and I want to print the combined name of the user. Can you write the script and can you send me? I want to ask user to enter his first name. Then I want to ask the user to enter second name. Then I need to print both names. I want to print both names. Okay. Can you write a script and can you send in the chat box? Can you write a script and can you send in the chat box? Come on, I'm giving 2 minutes of time for that. I'm giving 2 minutes of time for this. All of you able to do that? Very good. People are able to write it. Perfect. Yeah, let us see this. I'm going to write that script file now. I want to ask user to enter first name and last name. Then I want to print the full name of the user. That's it. Okay. So let me create another script file. vi 03 script.sh. So first line is a Shebang that will represent shell that is used to process our script bin bash. And I'm going to print one message saying that enter your first name. Then this is just to print a message. It will not read the name. To read the name, I'm going to take read first. Okay. Read command is used to read the actual name, first name. Then I will print one more message using echo. Enter your second name. Enter your first name, enter your second name. For that also we are using read command using second. So this read will read the first, whatever the data that you enter, and it will store in the first. And it will read the second name, store into the second variable, and I want to print the final name. Okay. So to print the final name, again we are going to use echo. Echo command is just to print a message. Echo your full name. Your full name. So dollar first space dollar second. Okay, that's it. So I'm asking the user to enter the first name. I'm asking the user to enter the second name. I'm storing these names in the two variables and I'm printing the two names dollar first and dollar second. So read is used to read the data and the dollar first means whatever you enter as a first name that will be printed. Dollar second means whatever the second name you enter that will be printed here. Then save this file and close it. Save this file and close it. So the file is available now. ls-l third file. So you can execute in two ways. One is by using sh command, another one is by using /. Okay, so when you use sh, permission is not required. Enter first name, I'm giving as Ashok. Enter second name, ID. Your full name, Ashok. So we are able to create one shell script file and we are able to execute that shell script file. Are you able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? You understand basic concept of shell scripting? Guys, you understand the basic concept of shell scripting? Okay, perfect. Next one. In the shell script, we are going to use a concept called variables concept. When we are working on the shell scripting, then we are going to use a concept called variables concept. What is the meaning of variables? So the concept variables are used to store the values. Whenever we are working with shell scripting, then we are going to use variables in that shell script. Variables are used to store the values, and variables will represent the data in key value format. If you see in our shell script also we use variables. So let me print the script now. Cat 03 script. If you see, first is one variable, second is one variable. The variable values I'm printing by using dollar. Okay. So what is the concept of variables? Variables are used to store the values. Variables will represent the data in the key value format. Variables will represent data in key value format. Variables are used to store the values and variables will represent data in the key value format. For example, I can take variable A is equal to 10. A is a variable, 10 is a value, and B is equal to 20. So when you go for programming like Java, C++, Python, .NET, data types will be available. Data types will be available. Okay, so here in the shell scripting, there is no concept of data type. Okay, A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, name is equal to Ashok, age is equal to 25, something like that. We can store the data into the variable type. Variables are used to store the values. Variables will represent the data in key value format. Okay. Now here, the point that we need to remember, we don't have data types. We don't have any data types for the variables in the shell scripting. Okay, guys. Can you please read about variables? Variables are used to store the values. Variables will represent the data in the key value format. When we are writing the variable, suppose for example in the Java, if I want to write a variable into A is equal to 10, string name is equal to Ashok, something like this. We need to write data types for the variables in the Java, even in the Python also. But here, when we go for shell scripting, we don't have data types concept in the shell script. So directly variable name and value we can store. So here, when we are working with the shell scripting, we have two types of variables. Guys, we have two types of variables. First one is called system variables. These are also called as environment variables, guys, which are already available in the Linux machine. Second one is user defined variables. Second one is user defined variables. So when we are working with the shell scripting, there are two types of variables available. First one is called as system variables. System variables also called as environment variables, and second one is called as user defined variables. Okay, so what is the meaning of system variables or environment variables? System variables or environment variables, nothing but those variables are already defined in the operating system, which are using by the variables which are already defined, which are already using by our operating system is called as system variable. Are you able to follow me? A is equal to 10. A is a variable, 10 is the value. It will represent the data in the key value form. There are two types of variables here. One is called system variable, second one is called environment variable. System variables, environment variables are same. So the variables which are defined in our operating system, okay, the variables which are already defined and using by our operating system are called as system variables. Can you read the statement again? The variables which are already defined and using by our operating system are called as system variables. Okay, so how we will get those system variables? Now you can see here, I'm using echo $shell. So dollar is used to access the value of the variable. So here A is the name of the variable, 10 is the value of the variable, 8 is the name of the variable, 25 is the value of the variable. So shell variable we have not declared, but we are getting value of the shell. So similarly, when I use echo $user, what is your username? I'm accessing that as EC2 user. Similarly, echo $path. I'm getting path. Okay. So these all variables are called as system variables. They are already defined. I have not created shell. I have not created user variable. I have not created path variable. I'm not creating these variables. Okay. So shell, user, path, these all are called as system variables which are using by our operating system. They are also called as predefined variables. They are already defined. Okay, we can access all these environment variables by using echo $env. Okay, so when you use $env, when we use $env, then we will get all these variables. So there are so many environment variables available. All the environment variables, all the system variables, all the predefined variables we can access by using env. Now let me check it. Echo $home. What is my home directory? I logged into this machine as a EC2 user. So I'm logged into this machine as a EC2 user. So I'm getting EC2 user home directory. Echo $home /home/EC2 user. I'm able to access. Got it. So if you want to see all the system variables, you can execute env command. So when you execute env command, we are getting all the environment variables. Shell, the default shell bin bash, hist control, system colors, hist size, host name nothing but what is our machine address, present working directory, logged in username, user home directory, LAN, colors, okay, term, and all these S colors, SSH client, all this information we are going to get by using this system variable concept. Dollar is used to access the value of the variables. Okay. So here the variables which are already defined are called as system variables. We can access all the system variables like this: echo shell, echo user, echo path. If you want to see all the environment variables, then we can use env, environment. It will print all the environment variables of our machine. Now, what about user-defined variables? Environment variables we are also called as predefined variables, which are already defined and using by operating system. Then what about user-defined variables? The variables which are created by users based on our requirement. Now, I want to perform sum of two numbers. Then I will declare A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. So these A and B are my variables, nothing but user-defined variables. So based on our requirement, we will declare some variables in the shell script. The variables which we are declaring, those variables are called as user-defined variables. Okay. The variables which we are creating for our requirement are called as user-defined variables, as I told you. So based on my requirement, I will declare name is equal to Ashok, it's my variable. ID is equal to 201, it's my variable. Gender is equal to male, it's my variable. Gender is the variable name, male is the value. Age is the variable name, 25 is the value. So based on my requirement, I will declare some variables in my script file. That variable is called as user-defined variable. Are you guys able to understand what is variable and how many types of variables available? Variables are used to store the values, and variables will represent the data in the key value format. Key is equal to value. A is key, so left side part is key, right side part is value. Equals is nothing but assignment. I am assigning value 10 to the variable A. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, name is equal to Ashok, age is equal to 25. So here we don't have any data types in the shell scripting. If you are from the development background like Java, Python, there is a concept of data type, but in the shell scripting, there is no concept of data type. So in the Linux, when we are working with the shell scripting, we will use two types of variables. One is called system variable, another one is called user-defined variables. So system variables nothing but the variables which are already defined and using by our system are called as system variables. So we can access all the system variables by using env command. And the variables which we are creating based on our requirement, those variables are called as user-defined variables. The variables which we are creating for our requirement are called as user-defined variables. So to access value of the variable, we are going to use a syntax like this. To access value of a variable, we will use below syntax. Echo dollar of variable name. Echo is used to print the value and dollar variable name. Echo is printing the value, dollar of variable name to access value of the variable. So if you see in our script file also, we have done the same thing. Cat 03 script. Here, dollar first, dollar second. What is the meaning of dollar first? I want to access the value of the first variable. Dollar second, I want to access the value of the variable second. So to access the value of the variable, we are going to use this syntax. Okay. Now, so how to create the variable here? For example, I'm using echo dollar of PWD. I'm getting a message echo dollar PWD. What is the meaning of PWD? nothing but present working directory. It is a predefined variable, already value I'm getting. Okay, for example, if I use echo $gender, am I getting any output for the gender? Now you see the difference. When I use echo $pwd, I'm getting output. When I use echo $gender, I'm not getting output. What is the difference? Can you guess the difference now? Can you guess the difference now? Come on. What is the difference between PWD and gender now? PWD is a predefined variable that is already available. That's why we are able to get. But the gender variable is not created. Gender is not created. That's why we are not getting that. That's why we are not getting that. Then how to declare predefined variable, nothing but is already available. That's why we are able to access the value. But gender, that is a user defined variable. So we did not create that variable. That's why we are not getting that value. So how to create a variable in the terminal? In the shell, how to create a variable? To create a variable in the shell, we can use a command called export. Export gender is equal to some male. Now, I have used export command. So what is the purpose of this export command? It is used to set the value to the variable. Now use echo gender. Now we are getting the output as. Are you able to understand? PWD is a predefined variable. It is already available in the operating system. That's why we are able to get its value directly. But when I use gender, echo $gender, gender variable is not available. That's why we are not getting any output. So how to create a variable using terminal? By using export command. Export gender is equal to male. So this is the command which is used to set the value to the variable. Then after setting the value to the variable echo $gender, I'm able to access its value. How to unset the variable? How to remove that variable? To remove the variable, unset gender. Okay. Echo command is used to print. Export command used to create the variable. Okay. And here unset variable is available. Unset gender. Then once I do the unset, when I use the gender, I'm not getting any data. So export variable is equal to value. Variable is created. When I use unset variable name, the variable is deleted. Okay. Create a variable, get the variable value, and unset the variable value. So we are using these three commands here. We are using these three commands. How to create a variable using terminal? Export variable name is equal to value. To get the value of the variable, echo $course. Unset the variable, unset variable name. And remember, when we are setting the variables using terminal, when we set the variable using terminal, this is temporary variable. For example, here I'm using export gender is equal to male. I have done the variable setup. I have created the variable. Then when I access echo $gender, I'm getting the value. This is temporary setting. Temporary setting is nothing but if I close this terminal, if I open again, that variable will not be available. So if we use export command, to set the variable using terminal, then that variable will be removed once we close our terminal. These are called as temporary variables. Okay, let me close my terminal. I have closed it. Now I'm closing my git bash terminal, guys. Close it anyway. Yes. Now I want to reconnect with that machine from my key pair. Go to git bash. I want to reconnect and I want to check that variable is available or not available. So let me use echo dollar gender. Is it available or not available, guys? Available or not available? Not available. What is the meaning of that? Can I say whatever the export command we are using in the terminal, it is making our variable as temporary variable? Can we say that the variable that we are setting in the terminal, is it a temporary variable? Yes, it is a temporary variable. That is the point here. If we use export command in the terminal, for setting the variables, then those variables will be removed once we close our terminal. These are called as temporary variables. If we use export command in the terminal for setting the variables, then those variables will be removed once we close our terminal. So that's why these are called as temporary variables. Are you clear with my point? Are you getting my point? What is variable? Types of variables, how to access variable value, how to create user-defined variable, how to access user-defined variable value, how to remove this variable, and if we use export command in the terminal to create the variable, that is called temporary. Once we close the terminal, that variable got removed. Now, how to set variables permanent? Even if I close the terminal, then I want my variables to be available. How to set variables permanent? Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? I want to set my variables permanently. Nothing but even if I close the terminal also, my variable should be available. How to set the variables permanently? So to set the variable permanently, there will be a file for the user. That file is called as bashrc file. Okay, we will use .bashrc file to set variables permanently for the user. So we connected to this machine as a EC2 user ls-l. It is displaying the script files. Go for ls-la. What is the meaning of ls-la, guys? Do you remember that we discussed ls-la? Do you remember what is the purpose of ls-la? ls-la, do you remember this? Hidden files also. Okay, yes. So when you see, whenever we access ls-la command, it is displaying hidden files also. There is a hidden file called .bashrc. There is a hidden file called .bashrc file is available. So if you want to set variable permanently for the user, then we need to set that variable in the bashrc file. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you with me, guys? Are you with me? Yes. So we will use .bashrc file to set variables permanently. Okay. So this bashrc file will be available in the user home directory. That is a hidden file. That is a hidden file. In user home directory, .bashrc file will be available. It is hidden file. So to access the hidden files, we will use a command ls-la. ls-la. Now let me print that bashrc file here. Print the content of the bashrc cat.bashrc. So in the bashrc file, some script is already available. In the bashrc file, this is the content of the bashrc file. So in the bashrc file, they are using export command, export path. Path is equal to some value. Export path is available. Unset RC. What is the meaning of unset? Remove that variable. So the bashrc file is available in the user home directory. You can see the content of that. Now open that file and declare our variables in that file. vi.bashrc. Now this is also a shell script file, guys. Don't touch this file. Go to end of this file. At the end of the file, I'm adding some variables. Okay. Course is equal to DevOps. Trainer is equal to Ashok. I have created two variables in the bash RC file. Course is equal to DevOps. Trainer is equal to Ashok. So like this, we are creating two variables in the bash RC file. We are creating two variables in the bash RC file. You can use export also, no problem. Export trainer is equal to Ashok. Export course is equal to DevOps. Then what is the meaning of that? We are creating two variables in the bash RC file. Then save this file and close this file. I have created two variables, course and trainer. Let's access echo dollar of course. I'm not getting that value. Echo dollar of trainer. So I'm not getting this value. Okay. So I have made some changes to the bash RC. I have declared two variables in the bash RC. But am I able to access those variables? Come on. I have created two variables in the bash RC, but am I able to access those variables? Or I'm not able to access those variables. I'm not able to access. The reason, when we make some changes to the bash RC file, we need to apply those changes. To apply those changes, source.bashrc, we need to execute that bash RC. We need to reload that bash RC file. To do that, we will use a command called source command. Source bash RC. Now access echo course echo trainer. So first I have used vi command. We already know what is vi. Vi is the editor which is used to edit the file. Then echo, in that file I added two variables. In that file I have added some variables. Then I have closed that file. After closing the file, if I access that variable directly, I'm not getting any output. Then I have executed a command called source command. What is the purpose of this source command here? What is the purpose of this source command here? Source command is used to apply the changes that we made to the bash RC file. After executing that source command, we are able to access the value of the variable. Are you clear, guys? Are you guys clear with my point? What is bash RC file? How, if you set the variables using terminal, that will become temporary. If you set the variables permanently, then if you restart the session also, that variable will be available. So we will use bash RC file to set variables permanently for the user. In user home directory, bash RC file will be available. That is hidden file. Okay, ls-la. Open the bash RC file, add the variables. Here you can use export command. Export trainer is equal to Ashok. Export course is equal to DevOps. Then save the file and close it. After adding the variables, save and close the file. After adding variables, save the file and close it using WQ. We already know that. Once it is done, we can use source command source.bash. Source.bash. What is the purpose of this source command with .bash? That is used to reload the changes. That is used to reload the changes. Okay, fine. Once it is done, then we can access those variables using echo command, echo $post, echo $trainer. So in the Linux machine, every user will contain their own bash RC file. So if I connect with EC2 user, EC2 user will have his own bash RC. Suppose if I connect with this machine as the other user, in every user home directory, one bash RC file will be available. So if you want to set some variables which are common for all the users. So now, whatever the bash RC file I have modified, this is only for EC2 user. This is only for EC2 user. How to set variables permanently? To set the variables permanently, we are using bash RC file. Okay, that bash RC file is specific to only one user. Okay, how to set variables permanently for all the users in the Linux? So every user will have that user specific bash RC. How to set variables for all users permanently in Linux? How to set variables for all users permanently in the Linux operating system? For this, there will be a file called profile file will be available. There will be one file called cat/etc/profile file will be available. So if you edit that profile file, in this file, we can set the variables. Then that will be applicable for all the users available in Linux. etc profile, which is common for all the users. Bash RC is specific to one user only. If we add the variable in the etc profile, then those variables applicable for all users in the Linux virtual machine. Okay. And one important point here, guys, whenever we are working with variables in the shell scripting, the variable name should not start with the digits. Variable names should not contain special symbols like hyphen, comma, underscore. Underscore can be used, but @hash. Okay. It is recommended to use uppercase characters for the variables. So instead of writing the name, it's better to write the name like this. So these are some rules that we need to follow when we are writing variables in our scripting. These are some rules that we need to follow when we are working with variables in the script. Variable names should not start with the digit. Variable name can contain a digit, but it should not start with the digit. And the names should not contain special symbols like this. And it is recommended to use uppercase characters for the variable names. It is always recommended to use uppercase characters for the variable names. Are you clear with my point? Yes, whenever you make the changes to the profile file or bash RC file, then we need to apply that. Then the changes will be loaded. Then we can access. This is very fundamental concepts that we discussed in the shell scripting today. What is the shell scripting? How to write a shell script file? How to execute the shell script file? What is variable? What is a system variable? What is user defined variable? We discussed in the today's session. How to set the variables temporarily and how to set the variables permanently, that we discussed today. All right, good. In the tomorrow session, we are going to talk about operators concept. How to use operators in the shell scripting, that we are going to discuss in the tomorrow session. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Good. So please practice these things before coming to tomorrow's session. We'll meet again tomorrow. So we have DevOps class at 8 p.m. We'll meet again tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye. Take care. I will upload the notes in the portal. So please do the practice before coming to tomorrow's session. Yeah. Still, how many days will continue for the scripting? Yeah. At least another 4 days I need for the script. Okay. Thank you guys.